that pleasure, what does the hedonistic adaptation mean, or hedonistic treadmill? What are we meaning when we speak about the hedonic treadmill or the hedonic adaptation? Come on, guys, you got this.
I guess I could explain it as a cyclical pursuit where there is really no end. That's where that treadmill, or excuse me, not treadmill. Did we say treadmill or did we say
treadmill? Absolutely.
Treadmill.
I think, okay, same thing. I'm thinking hamster wheel. That works better visually for me, so I'm gonna go with hamster wheel. And really, again, talking about that pursuit of happiness with that literal, there's no stopping point when you're on a treadmill or a hamster wheel. I guess unless you turn it off. Something I'm sure we'll speak about later. You can't.
What does turning off the treadmill imply metaphorically then?
Death.
Or you just refuse to be a part of that process, which I think we could probably speak into a little bit more.
Antinatalism. I can talk about that.
That's the treadmill, though, right? You end up, or the hamster wheel, you're going to end up right back where you start, right? You're on a cycle, and you're going to end up right back where you start.
It's not even that. It's like because if you're like on a track, like if instead of running on a treadmill, you're running on like a circular track, you're always going to end up right where you start, but you're making like forward movement. On a treadmill, you're not even going forward. You're spinning your wheels and staying in the same place. But so when we talk about the hedonic treadmill, studies have shown that about 50% of everybody's happiness level is predetermined by your genetics. So if you're I gotta move my hand so it's in camera. So if you're a super happy person, you're always up here. 50% of that is due to just the way you were born, and maybe an extra 10% I think was like from your upbringing. And you're not, if whatever variances you're gonna have, you'll always return to that baseline level.
Set point.
And if you're a generally unhappy person, 50% of it, you're stuck.
I don't think though that's fair, because what you're doing right now, when we're talking about the set point, that midline, that place we fall back, I don't think if it's low and in the happy, the idea is it's in the sort of middle space, right? Not like down here or up here.
No, not exactly. People will have varying levels of what is their happiness level.
Well,
but
yeah, that's true.
The general trend from the studies is that you'll always return to your general level, whether you have something really awesome happen in your life, you get a life coach and achieve every goal you have imaginable, or really bad things happen in your life. Whatever it is, you're always going to return to your baseline eventually, and you'll get used to whatever suffering or happiness that you're having right now.
Well, yes, that is an example they give. Is they did a study with people who won the lottery and people who had been in an accident that rendered them paraplegic, or and so what was interesting is they found that a lot of times the lottery winners were experiencing less happiness than the folks who were paraplegic.
And we're talking about a year later, so a year from when they became either wealthy or paraplegic. A year later, they all more or less went to their baseline. I mean, it kind of reminds me of shopaholics, right?
They're trying to get that it's anything. It's I think I know that especially with folks who have trauma, a lot of times we can do this, right? And the idea I've always said is I want to bring my thing. I just want to narrow that.
Your valleys and your peaks.
My valleys and peaks be smaller, and not be these big things. But it does play a big role in resilience too, though. Yeah. So we might think that this is bad and depressing, but where it's not bad and depressing is you're going to return to that set point even after the lows, if you just give it some time.
Okay, so it actually gave me hope when I was reading about this. I was like, oh, so if something really bad happens in my life, I will eventually come back to my happiness set point. Okay, so bad things aren't really that scary. Knowing that I have this fear of like something horrible will happen and then I'll never be the same, right? I'll just be in this pit of misery and despair for the rest of my life. And now I'm like, that's not going to happen.
Well, we're gonna rain on your parade a little bit.
Right.
You know, the contrarian, he hasn't had his say yet. Wait for it.
Okay.
Anthony.
there are at least 2 instances that they've found that will permanently lower your set point. Permanently.
Yeah, so like you've got your baseline and it just lowers the baseline almost permanently.
And that's the death of a child.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
That also chronic unemployment. So people who are chronically incapable of holding a job, they've found it will permanently lower their happiness set point.
Also, prison, being in prison, well, not permanent, for the duration of somebody who is in prison, their happiness set point is lowered as well.
What do you guys think ties those all together? I have an idea.
I think it's you share it.
I feel like in each one of those scenarios, there's an extreme lack of purpose. I don't know specifically how it is to have a kid, but I can imagine that you start looking for that child, and to lose that child really appreciates your feeling and your when it comes to your pursuit, or excuse me, not your pursuit, but your understanding and want to be, I guess, integral to something, to a part of something or someone. So I think that's important.
You brought up something I was going to bring up a little later, but we could just dive in. In doing research for this, after hearing that we've got this set point that we'll always return to, my next natural question was, how do you raise your set point? Like, how do you take your set point and bring it up so that your reset, is higher and in a happier zone? And there's only really one way to do that they've found, and it's interesting. So it's doing good for others, right?
I don't know. Oh, okay.
It's living an altruistic life, a life that is whose purpose is to do good for others. And what's very important is that purpose part. It has to be your idea that you're doing good for others. Like, it does not work if Anthony told me to go do something nice for somebody. It would in no way benefit my happiness set point.
Brooke tells me to do things for her all the time. It does not make me feel better.
Did I spell altruistic correctly? Altruism?
Yeah.
Yep. It's altruism.
Imagine that. Check mark.
But the moment it has to be, which this is where it called back to coaches. I thought this was funny, and I'm going to find the actual quote, the way it was put, because it has to be our idea to be doing the good thing for other people. And why is that? That's because it gives us a sense of purpose, and it makes us feel like we're in control of our lives.
Yeah. So for the coaches out there who have a client who is like, I want to find my purpose in life. I want to be fulfilled and happy and blah, 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 blah. You can't just tell them, okay, well, do nice things for other people and then you'll be happy. Because then, for one, you're telling them to do something, which is not coaching. 2, it actually backfires when they try to do something with their own self-interest because someone else told them to do it. They're not going to get anything out of it. Or what they do get out of it, it's not going to be lasting at all. And there they are on the treadmill. They're putting in a lot of effort but going nowhere. Which
is that huge reminder for coaches: don't tell. Right? Because your client is not going to get happiness from that. It has to be their idea. It has to come from them.
So what you do is you gather the information that they're telling you. You gather the information, put it in that empty vessel, and you tell them what they've just said. Here you shared this information. Here you shared that information. What comes to mind as I share this back to you, what you've given to me? Right? So you're going to ask those questions. It's the nature, our human nature, to want to do good as well as coaches, as any human would, and want to help that person figure it out and give them the answers. But that's not going to do it, as we're exploring in this discussion now. It is all about your client's ownership and participation on what their purpose idea
and tell people to go do nice things for other people. It's not going to work. It's not going to help.